Welcome back to Web3 Whispers, where we talk to the gigabrains and chads that power Web3. I'm Mathias, I'm the co-host Steeb. Who do we got?
Hey Matt, how do you feel being a gigabrain? You are now proclaimed.
Either
Yeah,
one, Chad or Gigabrain.
Yeah, you're either a chatter or a
wow.
gigabrain.
I think I'm gonna go with Gigabrain here just because I feel like Chad doesn't have these good, connotations to it.
Connotations. I
Yeah,
feel like
I
yeah.
think
I
I'm
feel
just
like
gonna
Either
take
way.
Gigabrain and work with that.
yeah, I feel like crypto kind of turned the Chad thing on its head, and now Chad is kind of like this gigabrain synonymous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, Chad, nah, definitely can't take Chad. Definitely
No.
can't take him.
go with
I'd be
Gigabrain. There's no
ridiculed for
evil
too long.
Gigabrains.
Yeah, chiseled jaw, like nice slick back hair, little like 5 o'clock shadow. Those are the Chads here.
Oh,
But
man.
anyways, yeah. So we have Matt with us from Synthetix. Matt, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Just if you could just answer like maybe how you got into crypto and how you ended up working with Synthetix.
Yeah, definitely. So just for like a quick side of it, as of right now, I do communications and marketing at Synthetix, but getting here is definitely a bit of an interesting story.
Excited to hear it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting one. I started in crypto years ago, probably 2015, 2016-ish.
Wow.
Could have been a lot richer than I am right now, but I'm not. Um, but initially I saw the space as a way to make a little bit of money.
Hmm.
I would sell Bitcoin on Paxful. I would sell Bitcoin on local Bitcoins to people.
Yeah,
Hey,
you'd buy weed with Bitcoin.
there's
The
there's
age-old
certain things
story.
there's certain things you discuss on recordings and certain things you don't.
I'm
But
not gonna narc you. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
narc you.
interview
you
Hopefully,
know,
me.
I don't think anyone from the FBI is listening, but I could be wrong.
and the funny thing is, I was like buying and selling Bitcoin during the day, and I was
Hmm.
actually like a freshman, sophomore in high school at the time.
Oh wow. Not to date
So,
yourself a little.
um, yeah, no, I mean, hey, I'll tell anyone how old I am now. I'm 21 years old. Like
Oh, nice.
that's fine. You can dox me on that.
That's
If
a ripe age to be in the space.
yeah, if everyone goes like if you guys went to go look at my Twitter right now, you'd see a picture of my face. So I'm already doxed. It's over. But
I did see that you're doxed.
yeah, I'm already doxed. So that's done.
I like that.
Got involved in like DeFi probably might even be 2.5 years ago now.
Hmm.
And back then, like the most exciting thing at the time was just was like Curve integrating like wire and finance into them, like allowing you to
Hmm.
have coins that were being lent out to people, but then also using them for liquidity on Curve. Like that was the
Hmm.
most interesting thing that we saw. Like this was like when Andre was just starting out.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still have like Telegram conversations with like Andre and Mitch from years ago, just when
Oh wow.
everyone was casual back then. It was just it was a very small space, and we all just no governance tokens, no nothing.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. No one knew if this thing was going up or going down.
Yeah, exactly. And from there, I was a lurker this whole time. Like throughout
Hmm.
this whole time, I didn't expose who I was. Like that was really it. But I was heavily involved in Synthetix. At first I found Synthetix as one of the most interesting projects to me because I
Hmm.
felt that it fit a real use case. Because I
Hmm.
feel like a lot of protocols in crypto will build for crypto instead of building for like real traders.
Yeah.
And like what real people want to do instead of just like some weird Ponzi-nomics sort of thing.
Hmm.
And Synthetix to me was okay. We're gonna take, you know, number one, like when I first got involved, liquidity was an issue. So allowing people to trade Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these different assets at low liquidity, high liquidity, low slippage, low fees was awesome. That's what I saw
Hmm.
Synthetix for, and then being able to trade stocks and all these different things. That's when I got really excited about it. But I was a lurker through this whole time, right?
Hmm.
And around, I think like late August or like late July of this year, so yeah, 2021,
Hmm.
I started my own Twitter account, right? Started my own public Twitter,
Hmm.
and I would just tweet about Synthetix, tweet about Quenta, some Thales stuff, just pretty much just breaking down like complex topics about how Synthetix worked and making it easier for normal people to understand how the protocol worked.
Hmm.
And I'm a college student as well, so I had a good amount of free time, and I was just doing this in my free time.
Hmm.
Um, what I would then do is I would go to governance calls that Synthetix would have, right? Like if Synthetix had a
Hmm.
governance call, pretty much for the last 3 months, they would discuss what has gone on for the last 3 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went to one of those and I was live tweeting it because that's what I started to do. I started live tweeting calls that would happen.
Oh
So
shit.
as I'm live tweeting this call,
Mm-hmm.
someone at Synthetix goes, "Hey, who's Matt? Who is this?" and posted in like the governance call Discord chat.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I was like, you know what? How about I just like connect my like anon personality to like who I am in real life? You know, like
Four stocks.
yeah, I was like, you know
Mhm.
what? We'll just call it a day at this point, and I'm me, you know. And I was just like, yeah, like I'm Matt. That's who I am. Blah blah. Blah. And people loved it. Like KAIN ended up retweeting it. He was like, this is an awesome breakdown. Blah blah blah. People started asking me to come to like different calls and live tweet them. And then I think probably like 3 or so weeks later, some of the guys at Synthetix reached out and asked me if I wanted to come on and do communications and marketing, like be their communications lead.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then KAIN was kind of toying with me on the Discord, pretty much like someone would say like, oh, like Matt should run for one of the governance positions at Synthetix, and then KAIN would just be like, no, like I think he might have a better position for himself, like blah blah blah, like without me even knowing
live
what was
Twitter
happening yet.
streamer. Yeah.
Yeah, like he was just clowning me for fun at the time because he was just toying with me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then I accepted the offer to come on at Synthetix and be their communications lead, and I've loved every second of it. And anything that you see come out of Synthetix, anything that's written, I guess you could say, Twitter, blog post, announcements, moderating, Twitter space calls, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that is all me. Like that's all the stuff that you would see from my side.
Yeah, no, even just being in the Synthetix Discord, I think like 99% of the communications coming from the team, if not 100%, is all coming from you. So I think you have a pretty established name for yourself in the Synthetix hub.
Yeah, definitely. And from there, I just attacked problems that I thought could have been solved by a CC, and then I think the big thing, and you guys will probably think this as well, coming from the community and being
Mm-hmm.
hired from the community is really the best way to get involved in this space.
Yeah, it's really, and that's a good segue. I was going to ask this question later after we'd kind of talked about Synthetix a bit, but I feel like this is a good chance to ask it. So what would your advice be to anyone trying to contribute to a project or work their way onto a project team?
That it's a question that I actually work out all the time with like
Mm-hmm.
some friends of mine and such. I would say there's like a couple big things that you can do. First thing, gotta be on Twitter. No
Yep.
way around that. Gotta be on crypto Twitter. Just start like taking in like the culture, the memes, just like the way
Yeah.
people talk. I don't
The
know.
vernacular, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very weird space, and it's something you just have to like accept, right? And
Mm-hmm.
start doing that, and just follow like different people, and see if you like certain projects, see if you like certain people on crypto Twitter, and join some discords and just start like learning about projects.
Mm-hmm.
From there, a lot of protocols, Synthetix included, have like bounty programs that will set up for like certain tasks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like grants, like if Synthetix has like a certain grant that they want to develop, like let's just say as
Mm-hmm.
an example, designing a stats page for Synthetix. That's a start for like some of the designers that start at Synthetix, right?
Right.
They'll just work as a contractor at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just a contractor independent of the protocol. And then after a little while, they'll come on full time, after you've shown that like you really care about the space and that you're contributing well, because that's really all these protocols want. They want people that understand what's going on and have the time to contribute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's that's the big
and
thing that I would say.
yeah, and that really resonates with me too. Like I think Matthias can speak to this a little bit too, but for me, the way that I kind of got even onto this podcast, the way that this like even happened was I was part of the Shogun War NFT. It's a play to earn game on Arbitrum, and I had really liked the project, really liked the founders, really liked the team, and then slowly like was kind of just putting in the hard work to get anyone from the team to notice me. Told one of the co-founders that I write on the side, and I also have like a finance accounting background, and he was like, oh well, if you want to like write the lore for us, you can write the lore. And then he was like, hey, like you mentioned you had like an accounting finance background, like would you mind like helping us write up the tokenomics for the game? I was like, yeah, sure. So then like just put in work there, did the tokenomics with them, put out the white paper, and then eventually like Matthias and I are on a call, and Matthias is just like, hey dude, like I feel like we vibe really well together, and like I really enjoy talking to you. Like we should just do a podcast. And so like that's kind of the genesis of this entire thing, which I think like resonates well with what you're saying. It's kind of just like find any opportunity you can to contribute to the project one way or another. And then hopefully like someone just notices you. And, you know, even if it's starting off small, if you prove yourself, you can work your way up and do something big.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I think most entries into crypto look like. And
Mm-hmm.
also those are the best people to come into projects. Because I think it'd be very difficult to find, you know, some guy who works in communications or podcasting like outside of crypto and tell them, yeah, you're going to start
Right.
podcasting on DeFi. Like you're going to start pulling guests on and talking to them about this random obscure place, this wormhole within a wormhole, you
Right.
know?
And it's general enough advice that it kind of it can be translated to any area of the team, whether that's like the dev team, marketing, communications, community, like even I mean, even just doing something like this, a podcast. Like I think that you know, the crypto bubble, like the space that we're in is it's a lot of people that are like-minded. It feels really big when you're in it. It's really small from the outside in. But like once you're in it, like you realize there's so many people that shared similar perspectives, similar like mindsets, you know, the degen mindset, along with like the diamond hands mindset. And so then you kind of like you start off on similar footing to everyone else, and it's easy to kind of work your way into a team because you already share those commonalities.
Yeah, and probably just to go a little bit more into like I guess I kind of leave this part out of the entry into Synthetix, but
Mm-hmm.
the Synthetix has this marketing group. It's called the 300 because the Synthetix like Synthetic Spartans 300. You know, that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like where a little bit of the war comes from. But so this Synthetix has this like volunteer marketing group called 300. It
Mm-hmm.
was me and there was a bunch of other people. There's probably like 20, 30 members of it that will just, you know, go on Twitter, talk about Synthetix, explain topics, stuff like that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I would say anyone that was involved in that back in like September or like September, October, pretty much I'd say half of them, maybe you could say a
Mm-hmm.
fourth of them, ended up either working part or full time within the Synthetix ecosystem in some
That's
way, shape,
awesome.
or form.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Um,
such a good way to get in, right?
yeah.
Like, I mean, you really want to pull those people from the community. I mean, if you're a founder, it's so good to like look through and see who's showing up in the Discords, who's, you know, live texting or live Twitter updating people from like calls, community calls. Like, yeah, it's a great way to get people in.
Not to yeah, and not to draw too many like similarities between like Web3 and like actual corporate life, but like it's kind of like an internship, right? Like you have the chance to prove yourself first, and then like the people above can kind of say like, oh, this person already like I can already tell this person wants this thing to grow and wants to contribute to this thing. So like if the work that they're doing is quality, then like that checks one box, and then they want this thing to grow. They like want to contribute. They feel like some sort of attachment to it. That's a second box to check, right? Because you have like some capital, social capital tied up into the project that you're working on.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of people maybe think that they need a lot more experience than they expect.
Mm-hmm.
Like most of crypto and DeFi as a whole is just knowing about the project that you want to work for. Me,
Right.
I have an accounting background as well. Like I'm an accounting major, be graduating in 2 weeks or so.
Well,
I am not a
early
communications.
congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
Yeah.
thank you guys,
exactly.
thank you. I'll make sure to send you guys tickets to my graduation.
Oh, please, I'll be
Um,
there.
Front row. We're getting
You
front
won't
row
know who
tickets,
we
right?
are, but we'll be there.
but I like I and met like I feel like a lot of people who work in, you know, communications, marketing, and growth and that sort of thing, they don't
Hmm.
like. It's not like we worked in like web like like any sort of corporate or like Web 2 marketing gig or communications
Hmm.
gig. Like like in my head, most people can learn communications and marketing, right? But
Right.
learning DeFi and picking up like 2 years of knowledge about how it all works, that's a little bit harder. That
Right.
takes a little bit more time. And if you have the time to dedicate a couple months to learning about how these protocols work and then really finding one place that you really like and calling it like home,
Hmm.
that's where you can really break in.
No, it's true. And so much of the space is learning, right? Like, and the more you involve yourself with a project, even if you're not necessarily on the team, but the more you involve yourself with the project, the quicker you learn. Like you're kind of forced into learning, which is something that I've really enjoyed too. Is like one, I find it really enjoyable to learn in the first place about the space. And then two, it's like when you're kind of put in a position where you need to constantly educate yourself because you know things are changing so rapidly, the landscape shifts so quickly. It's like it kind of puts you in a position where the only way you can actually grow with these things is if you're learning.
Yeah, and that's like the most rewarding thing about the space to me. Like being
Definitely.
like I have a hard time even calling myself like a gigabrain because the people that I work with at Synthetix and that I get to like work with at a daily basis, like within other protocols within the ecosystem, they are the real gigabrains.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
these are the guys drawing up the math behind like funding rate models for Synthetix perpetual futures, right? Like these are the guys that are in the trenches when it comes to like gigabrain lifestyle, you know?
Yeah, and I guess it's a good time to ask you to speak a little bit on what Synthetix is, so that our listeners have an idea of what we're talking about.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. I think there's probably like two things to explore with like what Synthetix is. And
Hmm.
I think it's important to probably go into like what the old Synthetix was and what Synthetix
Definitely.
is today. Because
Yeah, give us the genesis story and then break it
yeah,
down.
yeah, definitely. I'm not going to go back like all the way back to pre-Synthetix because Synthetix like was Haven prior to this. It was a stablecoin project.
Uh-huh.
Then it was rebranded as Synthetix. But anyway, I'll go into what the old Synthetix was at first, like 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago when I first got involved, and then now like what it is now.
Sounds good.
So for anyone that like has been involved in the space for a while, Synthetix at first, simply put, was a spot synth exchange protocol. It pretty much allowed you to trade synthetic US dollars to any asset that was supported by Chainlink and added to Synthetix on Synthetix Exchange with um, low slippage, low fees, and relatively instant execution, right? And in the beginning of DeFi, liquidity was very scarce, especially for like these long tail assets. You guys probably remember going on Uniswap and getting like killed on slippage for
Yep.
transactions at first. So that was the initial problem that Synthetix was solving, right? It was a spot synth exchange protocol. It allowed you to go from SUSD to the assets that were supported. Um, and Synthetix Exchange then rebranded into Quenta. It was still a part of the core Synthetix team at the core Synthetix protocol at the time. And then to go a little bit deeper, like explaining what the Synthetix token does to this whole this whole model. The Synthetix token, when it's staked, what happens right there is you will stake your Synthetix tokens. You will then receive SUSD as your debt. From there, you're now a part of the Synthetix model and like how Synthetix works. It
Hmm.
pretty much just Synthetix, like when you stake Synthetix, you pretty much are now a part of allowing anyone to trade. You're the counterparty to all trades that occur, and
Hmm.
that's been true since the old Synthetix, and it's still the same today. To go a little bit into why this model didn't work, this like old Synthetix, there are pretty there, there were large issues with being on mainnet, right?
Hmm.
High fees is one of them, obviously, but when you're dealing with Chainlink feeds and high fees, you have Oracle latency. And one of the problems that Synthetix had come up with that had occurred years ago was that people would try to front run Chainlink feeds.
Hmm.
Now, if you can front run Synthetix, you're pretty much able to make a little bit of instant profit off of stakers, right? And
Hmm.
that's not good. So what they did on mainnet was they actually instituted a 10-minute fee reclamation period. And pretty much what that means is you would go to complete a trade, you then wait 10 minutes, right?
Hmm.
If the oracle's updated in prices within that 10 minutes and it was higher, you would pretty much like get a different price after that 10 minutes and then return some sort of synth difference at that time.
Hmm.
That is a very bad user experience, like,
Right.
to put it simply.
Right. You think you're paying one thing and then you end up paying another.
Yeah, especially in crypto markets, 10 minutes. Like, come on, that's
Yeah,
that's
that's a
weeks
make or break.
in
Yeah.
traditional finance. Like that's just not
Yeah,
like
it's like in Interstellar when he's like on the planet and like every day is like 8 years. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So that didn't work. And especially as perpetual futures markets started to take off, centralized ones, obviously, there really wasn't a big reason for traders to want to be on Synthetix. So that's obviously why Synthetix then goes to Optimism, this layer 2 scaling solution with low fees, instant execution, pretty much allowing Synthetix to do what it always wanted. So this new model of Synthetix and what it is today, and what I really want people to know it as, is this synthetic asset infrastructure protocol that powers so many projects on Optimism. Summing that up and like what that means in like real understandable terms, I think of Synthetix as a back-end liquidity provider for anyone that wants to build on top of it and utilize our liquidity and tech. What that then goes a little bit further into, you have protocols like Quenta, right? Who still allow traders to trade spot assets, but also we now have synthetic futures. So people can now trade perpetual futures at up to 10 times leverage for a full suite of, different assets that people can trade with. You've got Ethereum, you got Bitcoin, you've got gold, silver, Avalanche, Link, Uniswap, Matic, Solana, Gold. We're the first protocol to support gold trading fully on chain in a perpetual futures market. There is no one else that does that in DeFi right now.
And that's awesome. Yeah.
And then further with that, you've got a protocol like Lyra Finance. I don't know if you've ever checked it out. They have a beautiful UI, amazing protocol. But they allow for options trading on top of Synthetix, and they use Synths to allow that to happen. Then there's protocols like Polynomial. They're similar to like Ribbon on L1, and I think they're on some L2s as well. But they're a structured product. So pretty much what that would do is it lets you, trade covered calls, like automated covered call strategies, and like automated option strategies of that nature. And going even deeper, you have on-chain hedge funds through someone like dHedge that would use our synthetic assets and will soon use futures to allow anyone to be a hedge fund manager, is what I'll call that. So that's really what Synthetix is now. It's really it's like, at first, like years ago, it was the front end for people. Like people knew Synthetix, they would go to Synthetix Exchange and they would make an exchange. Now Synthetix serves as the back end for so many protocols.
Right, and I think even Thales uses you guys as well, right?
Yeah, I actually caught slack from from the Thales guys some time ago because I put out a tweet explaining how all these protocols use Synthetix, but I didn't include Thales. Now,
I'm not forcing you to include Thales.
Yeah, I will set the record straight. The reason I didn't include Thales is because when I mentioned the protocols, and the protocols I just mentioned, like a couple seconds ago, these are protocols that integrate synthetic exchanging, right? Thales uses SUSD, uses the stable coin that is backed, by SNX, right? And that's why I didn't include Thales, and that's why I didn't include ALIN as well. ALIN is a decentralized protocol to allow people to do fundraising, also within the Synthetix ecosystem.
Yeah, we actually did a podcast with Thales too, so we know the guys over there.
Yeah, D-Monkey put me in touch with you guys, and then
right, D-Monkey connected us.
Yeah, and then made sure to rip me a new one again for forgetting to include
He brought
them.
it up again.
You better mention us on the podcast.
Oh no, I'm telling you guys. Not only did I get like slack from him, when KAIN retweeted it, he quote retweeted it and made sure to mention whoever runs the Synthetix Twitter obviously isn't holding Bailey's tokens. I was like, come on, man, like please.
Oh man. KAIN never letting you off there. He's like still cyberbullying here.
Oh yeah,
everyone's just double downing on Matt.
He will continue to do that. And just some like data points I want to talk about with Synthetix, like on Optimism. Within the first month of our launch for synthetic futures, we had $1 billion in trading volume.
Jeez.
Fully on chain.
That's
like
insane.
that to me is really what DeFi is all about, right? Like we're allowing anyone in the world to go onto Optimism, right? A low fee platform, a low fee layer 2 scaling protocol on Ethereum that allows anyone in the world to deposit SUSD onto here and then just trade at up to 10x leverage. That is amazing.
Yeah, you're really pushing liquidity volume. It's insane.
Yeah, and then I've kind of like, to a degree, I've kind of written off L1 Synthetix, but L1 Synthetix, crazily enough, does still generate a good deal of volume. And how it does that is after this fee reclamation problem that the old Synthetix a while ago, when I came on back in November, we introduced this feature called atomic exchanges. Now, pretty much what that allows traders to do is it allows you to trade at the current chain link price, right? With
Mm-hmm.
no 10-minute wait, no nothing, on certain assets that aren't going to fluctuate that much. Think of like any sort of like Forex market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that, we've seen protocols like Curve utilize Synthetix for, if someone's going from one Forex market to another, or Fixed Forex. Don't know if you saw the Andre project. He has a project called Fixed Forex that does this
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing, and they have hundreds of millions of dollars of TVL on there that routes through Synthetix. So L1 Synthetix isn't like really dead. it's
Yeah, it's not
it's still there.
negligible. Yeah.
It's still there, and it generates a great deal of volume. If Curve does like a very large trade from one asset to another, they'll still use Synthetix for certain things as well,
Mm-hmm.
and use this new feature, atomic exchanges, for that.
Awesome.
Yeah, so probably to sum it up, and I'll just say it again. I think of Synthetix
Oops,
as
sorry about that.
this. All good. I think of Synthetix as a back-end liquidity provider for anyone that wants to build on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Think of if you want to build on top of synthetic futures, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
want to build on top of just regular synths, if you want to anything of that nature, or you could build on top of any of the protocols that integrate with us.
Mm-hmm.
Lyra has polynomial right on top of it. Quenta may have someone at some point build on it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a world of things to do at Synthetix. I always refer to it as like a DeFi trader's paradise, being fully on chain and allowing you to use all these different protocols
Mm-hmm.
in a low fee place as well. So yeah, that's kind of like the the explanation of like what Synthetix is and like why traders would want to use it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, man. That was a super in-depth explanation of Synthetix, and I think anyone that's listening now that doesn't know what Synthetix is probably not built for the space. But
Yeah, if they don't know what Synthetix is, definitely need to do a little more research. But it's always good. We're all learning.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. And so on that note, Synthetix is what it is now, everything that you explained, but what do you see Synthetix looking like in 6 months or a year from now? Do you think new services will be built out from it? Do you think it's going to kind of be the same thing? Just the game is going to be driving more players to the space. What do you think Synthetix is going to look like 6 months from now? Like what's kind of what can you give us that's not necessarily alpha, or alpha if you want to release alpha? We love having alpha on the
Yeah, I
podcast.
mean, if you want to drop alpha, that's all good
Yeah,
too.
what's funny? I may just drop alpha and not even notice that I'm dropping alpha. I just may start talking about things that I've been writing about and not even notice that it's out there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so when it comes to these like new features and like most important upcoming new features,
Hmm.
number one, there's this continued optimizations and improvements on futures and the chainlink feeds that we use. I know that they're releasing a whole new perpetual futures V2 is what it's going to be called, with a
Hmm.
totally different funding rate mechanism that'll be able to scale better to have more traders on there. Continued optimization on the feeds themselves, like bringing down fees so traders can trade at close to a centralized exchange, because
Hmm.
that's the most important thing to rival centralized exchanges. And on that same future side of things, increasing leverage on assets. I think the number, I don't know if this is alpha, that some people want to propose is 25x leverage.
Jeez, that's
Wow.
insane.
So if people want to trade up to 25x leverage, that would then be possible. If that goes through the governance process and passes.
Hmm.
Alongside that, um, SUSD fungibility, because as of right now, SUSD on L1 is not fungible with SUSD on L2.
Hmm.
So that problem will be solved in the next 2-3 weeks or so. There's already a Synthetix improvement proposal out to fix that, and that's already being done. Coming soon. Let's see. I've been chatting with some protocols
Hmm.
to automate synthetic staking. So if you're a staker of Synthetix, you have to claim manually once a week, right? And
Hmm.
rewards open up on Wednesdays, late EST. So I'm trying to have that automated. So instead of you having to do it yourself, you would just delegate the ability to claim for you to
Hmm.
somebody else, already built in the Synthetix contracts to make sure that they can only claim for you. So that could be something that we see. And then making staking easier with one-click debt hedging, because Synthetix is kind of like known for having a little bit of a hard time for users, you know, like hedging their debt, and that's something that sets Synthetix apart, because when you stake SNX, it's not this like simple, um, it it's not what other DeFi protocols use it for. Other DeFi protocols will just have you stake and it serves no value.
Hmm.
But Synthetix, like when you stake SNX, you are a vital part of the ecosystem. You allow all this trading to happen. You're the reason that 1 billion in trading volume happened, and you
Hmm.
share in the fees for that. But with
Right,
that,
because you're
you
acting as a counterparty.
exactly. But with
Hmm.
that, you have to hedge your debt against what the debt pool does. Like if more traders go into Bitcoin, to hedge that, you have to go into Bitcoin as well.
Hmm.
To go further out, like much further out than probably 6 months, I would probably say like a year. Don't know the exact timelines on this, but then you'd have something like Synthetix V3, which rebuilds Synthetix from the ground up. There's been some public talk on it as of right now,
Hmm.
some proposals that have already went out. But in summary, I would say it establishes an entire new framework for Synthetix that removes the tech debt of the past that have made it hard to, continue to innovate, and enables a much more trustless way of releasing like new feeds and new things for people to trade.
Right. So we have to bring you onto this podcast again next year to talk about Synthetix all over again.
Yeah, hey, I'm more than willing to chat with you guys again for Synthetix V3.
Yeah.
maybe,
I mean,
maybe
even 6
maybe
months from now.
instead of me, we throw KAIN in here with me.
Oh, we'd
And
love to get KAIN up here.
Yeah, I'd love to see KAIN and you in here because just the dynamic seems like so much fun. Like,
Yeah, I feel
especially if
like
you guys have been together for so long, you're like in the same space. Like, maybe you can bully him on here then.
yeah, hey,
Matthias
We'll
and I are
switch it
just gonna be
around.
hands off, and it's just gonna
Yeah,
be
we'll
KAIN
gang up on
bullying.
him.
It's just gonna be KAIN bullying Matt for an hour.
you know it. It's actually a funny thing to say, because when I moderate calls and he's there, I'll always try to like throw in a dig or two at him, like when I'm moderating it, and he just doesn't stand for it. He's just like, nope, not gonna answer your question. All right, man. Um,
I
but yeah,
love that.
KAIN is awesome. But yeah, that's kind of what this like next step for Synthetix is. Because right now, like bringing new feeds on, like this process of, let's just say you want to trade ApeCoin as an example. A little bit of
Hmm.
alpha, ApeCoin's coming out tomorrow. ApeCoin and
Oh, nice.
DYDX traders are going to be able to trade that on perpetual futures tomorrow
Oh wow.
at around I want to say before 3 o'clock EST. Um,
Alpha alert.
Yeah.
but yeah, so like the current process of bringing a new feed on is, let's say, okay, I want to trade ApeCoin,
Hmm.
and Synthetix doesn't have it. So what you do is you submit a proposal, and then you present it to the Synthetix Spartan Council. They look at it, they say, okay, do we like this? What fees should we set on this to make sure that there's no front running risk for stakers? And then it goes forward, and you request the feed from Chainlink and they send it over. It's
Hmm.
it's a very archaic process for something that is like, for something that needs feeds very quickly, right? But
Hmm.
that's the current process that it is. And it's something that's being worked on. But in the future, like for Synthetix V3, like anyone would be able to spin up a feed, like spin up a new asset on Synthetix and Synthetix futures at any point,
Hmm.
because, and this is what some of the framework is about, people would pick and choose what markets they want to be the counterparty to. Instead of having to be the counterparty for all trades,
Hmm.
someone could say, I only want to be the counterparty for ETH and Bitcoin trades. That's it, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't want to be the counterparty for ApeCoin trades, and that's fine. But
Understandable.
if you were the counterparty for those trades, you might get larger trading fee rewards and stuff like that.
Right. It's, risk versus reward, essentially. It's like someone that's willing to take a generalized, watered down risk versus someone that's willing to take specific risk.
Yeah, definitely. And the system
Hmm.
right now is, when a new feed is put on, everyone has to now hedge against that if it becomes a substantial part of the debt pool.
Hmm. Okay, so say I'm a new user of Synthetix and I want to trade in perpetual futures. Take me through the step by step, as well as like hedging.
Yeah, okay. If you're a trader, you don't need to worry about any sort of hedging.
Right,
Like
that's only from the staking side.
that's only from the staking side, so not even a
Mm-hmm.
problem you have to deal with. To go through the process of you trading, okay, so it would start on you bridging some sort of crypto asset to
Mm-hmm.
optimism. That's the biggest thing that most traders and the most traders are going to find. I'm not going to say like difficult, but I'm going to say a little bit interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you now bridge to Optimism. You have assets on Optimism mainnet, and you bridge to Optimism. That's your first step, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, you're going to go to Quenta. You're going to go to Quenta.io. You're going to land on their homepage, and it says Perpetual Futures beta available now. Click on that, connect your wallet. Now you're in. Okay, awesome. Now, from here, it depends on like what asset you've bridged over. So if you
Mm-hmm.
bridged over USDC as an example, go over to Uniswap, trade your USDC into SUSD. Cool. Now,
Mm-hmm.
now you're good to go. Deposit onto Quenta, start trading.
Easy. And let's say,
Wow.
okay, now from the staking side, I want to hedge. I know you said that Synthetix is kind of known for being a little bit more of a complicated process for hedging. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so if you wanted to go stake on Optimism, you would
Mm-hmm.
bridge your SNX to Optimism, or maybe you bought SNX on Optimism, whatever that first step looks like. From there, you would then um, stake your SNX on the staking DApp.
Mm-hmm.
Then, when you've staked, you'll receive a certain amount. Let's just say, as an example, you stake $400 worth of SNX, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would then receive $100 of debt. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then, right from there, you would then check out the debt page on the Synthetix D app as well. It would show you the breakdown of what the current debt pool composition looks like. From there, you would just take your debt that's been issued to you and allocate it to whatever assets that is on the debt pool composition page. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to give example numbers. Let's say it's 80% SUSD and
Mm-hmm.
20% ETH. You would just do that. You would take 80% of it and leave it in SUSD.
Mm-hmm.
You would take the other 20% of it and buy Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
And
And so
then,
that's where the problem is, right? It's that you have to, like, right now you're saying that you guys want to automate the hedging process. Right now it's like you kind of have to be an informed user to really understand what you're doing after you've staked.
yeah, you really have to check it, let's just say I'm going to say once every week, 2 weeks or so, somewhere in
Mm-hmm.
that realm. But we actually do already have an automated solution for hedging, but it's on layer one right now.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, if you wanted that solution, like right after you staked, you would just take the SUSD and just like a little pop-up would come up to hedge, and you would just click that, put your SUSD in, and that'd be it, and you'd be done. I would say within the next 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half, um, we'll have we'll have the ability for people to hedge in one click right on the centralized, right on our app.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the walkthrough, man. Yeah, we just like to inform our listeners so that, once they know Synthetix, they can get into they can get onto Synthetix and they can do all the things they need to do and they can use our podcast so that our podcast is multifunctional and people aren't just listening to us to hear us talk.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like the the biggest thing right now for like, traders that might be listening to this, I would definitely just go on Quenta and like mess around a little bit, because
Mm-hmm.
the cool thing about this being like a fully decentralized platform with like low fees is you could just open up like $100 short position right now,
Right.
and your fees are maybe going to be for like say like 25 cents, 50 cents for a transaction on Optimism. Obviously not 1 penny, but much better than if you were on layer one, right? If you were on mainnet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
$100 option, and then $25 to $100 fee.
yeah, fee just gone immediately. It was it.
Unfortunately.
I actually did a presentation to a former class of mine about DeFi, and I like YOLO'd like $100 while I was sitting there with them. Just because I was like, here, I want to show you guys how this works, and they're like, wait, so like that's it? I'm like, yeah, like you didn't like.
How'd that
you didn't-
$100 perform?
Hey, we don't need to talk about that. We don't.
Up massively, about to retire.
Yeah, man. To be honest with you, I don't even know if I checked it afterwards. If I even did, I went fully 10x like long on it as well. So
Full degen.
it definitely is liquidated right now.
For demonstrational purposes, I am going 100x leverage for you guys.
Yeah,
Definitely
you
don't do this.
never did a follow up with the class because otherwise no one would get
Yeah.
into DeFi.
Yeah, I did that trade and that was it. I was like, cool, we're just gonna see how this goes. And synthetic stakers love me because
Yeah.
they were able to make the other side of that trade. So good for them, right?
They're like, who's taking this trade? Jeez, all right, I'll take it, I guess. Might as well. It's free money, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've got to check on that. Thank you. That's a good reminder to go check on that trade. I can tell you.
I don't need to get a job after college. I'm good.
Yeah, man. I can tell you. Ethereum was much higher at the time. It was not. It was not. What is Ethereum at now?
2,300 or
down
something like
10%
that.
for the day. Yeah, it wasn't like
Yeah. Oh man, that's pretty good though. Well, I'm
Yeah.
kind of curious. I'm glad we could get into some of the like people get their feet wet, educational stuff too, and then but I'm curious on your take. Well, the thing I like to ask people is where did DeFi or crypto for you kind of click? Where you're like, yeah, this totally makes sense. It's the future, it's amazing. And where you went from like, oh, I don't know about this. Like, what was that moment? Was there a certain thing? What was it?
Yeah. Wow. I think the thing that really clicked for me was being able to earn interest on money. Like let's say you had some amount of
Mhm.
like I had some amount of money in stable coins, right? Like when gas prices were nothing
Yeah.
back in the day. But the time that it really clicked for me was being able to take some amount of money, deposit it into like something like Aave, right, and earn like
Mhm.
3 or 4%. Like that was crazy to me. Like
Yeah.
you could just deposit your money onto this decentralized protocol. They have no ability to take your funds. It's
Mhm.
being used by other people on the other side of this to borrow it. But then when you want to leave, there's no waiting period. You just withdraw. Like
Yeah.
that I think that's where it really clicked for me. I'm like, "Wait, so like you don't need a bank for this?" So in theory, if I was smarter years ago and had $100,000 or a couple $100,000 in Ethereum and then wanted to go buy a car, I could just deposit it to Aave and then take out a loan. Like
Mhm.
that was the part that really clicked for me. And then when things went further with now being able to be a liquidity, like being able to deposit to Aave and then take your Aave tokens and deposit them on Curve,
Yeah.
now I was like, wow, like this is like Lego blocks that you're taking. Like we're helping people actually be able to borrow assets and providing liquidity for people on Aave. But then alongside that, people can now trade between stable coins immediately through something
Yeah.
like Curve. That's like at the first part of things where it like really clicked, and I was like, I was like so attached to everything. Um, I was probably more like in it for the yields at first, but as
Yeah.
time went on, I found projects, like Synthetix that I was really interested in, and I wanted to just go deeper with them and wanted to see what the next step could be. But yeah, I
Yeah.
would say like Aave and Curve is really where I, got my feet
Where it
wet at
clicked for
first.
you. Like
Yeah.
it is amazing to see. Like there is always a moment for people that 0 to 1 moment where it just like kind of makes sense. And you're like, oh shit, this is like real. Like this could be amazing or is amazing and stuff. So it's always interesting to get everybody's kind of take.
Yeah, it's
I'd
just
like to hear.
onboarding
Oh,
more
go
people,
ahead.
right? Like that's the big. I feel like that's the big stage we're in right now. I feel like everyone that's in it, like really in it, is like, I believe in this thing. Like I know this has, utility. I hate to use cliche words, but like I know this thing has utility. I know that like it's going to be important. I know that it's important now, and it's like bringing more people on and educating them. Like that's such an important aspect of our podcast. Like a theme for a lot of our chats with project teams and whatnot is like, how are you educating the people in your community, and like what's the sort of outreach for onboarding people, et cetera, et cetera. Like I feel like that's the stage that we're in.
Yeah, no, it definitely is the stage that we're in. And the biggest thing that a project like Synthetix is really pushing hard for is to allow people to bridge to Optimism without having to go to Ethereum mainnet first, right?
Hmm.
So there's definitely like many people in the back end working with countless exchanges to try to allow that to happen. But that's the biggest part. Once someone's on Optimism, you're most likely using like one of the countless Synthetix ecosystem projects, right?
Hmm.
Because like kind of dominates Optimism right now. Like there's so many of them. But when it comes to like the educational side of things and like what we're doing, um, we've always been proactive with blog posts like explainers, and that was the big reason that I think Synthetix wanted to bring me on at first as well, because
Hmm.
I would put out these Twitter threads by myself like without any like payment or
For fun.
yeah
Yeah,
I
right.
was
It's
like,
like,
oh, this is fun. I saw a need and I was like, I'm gonna
hmm
fill that need.
Hmm.
And that's the same thing that I've done up to now, like being able to bridge the gap between like what developers say in their like developer speak and getting it out to the masses is what any like good communications team is doing. And that's the big thing that we've done, and then also informing people of this like new Synthetix offering and
Hmm.
all the different protocols that are built on top of us. We we've gotten like pretty big engagement for any like educational post explaining Synthetix and the different ecosystem projects
That's
as
pretty
well.
cool, though.
you know
I was gonna
um,
say, like, how do you convince? How do you talk to people that do have a finance or accounting background? I'm sure it's is it easier or more difficult to explain this kind of stuff, DeFi and all this, to accounting finance people, or is it easier to explain it to people that really aren't that sophisticated with it?
I think it's hmm, that's a tough one, right? Because I feel like there are
Yeah.
certain people out there that are very like prejudiced towards the space already. And I
Yeah,
th- I
exactly.
I think a
They're
lot of
like, "It's a
people
fucking Ponzi." Like, and they're like,
exactly.
"Oh, we didn't even get to the whole education part." They're like, "No, thank you." Like,
Well, I'd,
Yeah,
I'd
all
even
right.
add to that and say, like, especially people in accounting and finance, like,
Mhm.
I've not doxing myself too much because I've mentioned this before, but like, I worked Big Four for 3 years, and
oh
like,
really?
yeah, and I'm I know you're familiar with that if you're an accounting
Yeah,
major. So like,
yeah.
I worked Big Four for 3 years, and like, there's a lot of negative outlook, at least while I was there, on crypto as a space. Like a lot of people that were my age, which like is actually a lot of people in Big Four because there's so much turnover. Like there's a lot of people like coming straight out of college that are working there for like their first 3 years before they leave. A lot of those people, I'd say, like, I wouldn't even say the majority, but like a decent portion of that is pretty like willing to dip their toes into crypto at the time. But I think like there was generally in the accounting and finance environment generally a negative outlook on crypto.
Yeah, I just before we even go into that, if you don't mind me asking, what did you do in Big Four? Audit,
So,
tax,
yeah,
consulting?
so I did audit for real estate private equity clients, and I did that for 3 years.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
I was actually very close to doing audit myself, but ended up, not going that direction, and obviously being at Synthetix as it is now. Yeah, no, I was very close. I mean, as said before, like graduating in 2 weeks. So
It gives you great financial literacy. Like it's definitely I'd recommend it to anyone that's coming out of college and accounting
Is
degree.
yeah,
there
Like
like
you
a
have
section in accounting that's like who's like the cowboys of like the accounting? Is that like audit and risk management, or is there like like who's like the risk
there's
taker
there's
people and
probably
who's
no
the
cowboys in accounting.
Yeah,
no? It's
there's no
just like no.
cowboys in accounting.
Everybody's like
Trust me,
everyone's like
like
no.
it's very conservative. Accounting is like
Nobody's the rock star.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most people that go towards it, like it's kind of one of those
Hmm
fields where you like want the stability of it, and
Mm.
Hmm.
and you find that really rewarding. But
It's
like,
very risk averse.
yeah, and you know better than me. I mean, Big Four is insane with their hours. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine telling someone to work a 90-hour week. You're gonna work a 90-hour week, and you know what we're gonna pay you? We're gonna give you like $65,000.
Yeah, no, it's
Dude,
like it's absolute trash. It's like, and the thing is too, like all of the big four firms know that people need it coming out of college because there's so much opportunity once you're in it that they're just willing they'll pay you pennies to a dollar because they know that you're going to take it for the. And you know what? It ended up being like very resilient during the pandemic, obviously, because like financial statement audits and 10K, 10Q filings. Like those are all requirements. That's a, it's a regulated industry, and you need auditors if you're a public company, and you need auditors if you're taking out loans as a private company, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, no matter what, you have job security. So it ended up being like very resilient during the pandemic, which I appreciated, but still, like, when you're working an 80-hour work week from home, it doesn't feel too much better than working an 80-hour work week at the office.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you can't get those pizza parties at home,
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. You have to make your own pizza party at home? No, thanks. I'm going into the office. But
Yeah,
no. But
I was very close, but to like answer your question
oh yeah.
about like,
Mhm.
yeah, to answer your like educational side of things, um, I would say, I mean, it really depends on the person. Some people are very like, I hate crypto, I think it's all a scam, and I think that's because of the way they've been exposed to crypto.
Hmm.
Like, they haven't really been exposed to the DeFi side. They've been exposed to like the shitcoin side. Like, they've been
Hmm.
exposed to like Shiba. They've been exposed to like Doge. They've been exposed to like NFT scams. And that's not me calling every project an NFT scam. That's me talking about like
You
literal
heard it here
tokenized.
first. NFTs are scams. Great.
Oh.
Moving on. No, I'm just kidding.
But like, like you guys know what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that's the way that they were exposed to this at first. So anything to them, they're gonna find a way to make it a scam. But
Yeah.
I think the big thing is, and it's very hard for a lot of like Western nation individuals to really like look at properly. But well, because it like in the West, your financial systems aren't really typically out to get you. You can open a Fidelity account, you can
Hmm.
typically trade without much of a hitch. I mean, minus some like GameStop fiasco stuff every now and again. But like minus
Yeah.
that, most people in the West have a hard time seeing the value and utility for a lot of these things.
Yeah.
When it comes to like education for these people, I would say that I've had the best success with I would say people who are interested in crypto, but not for the wrong reasons. Like,
Right.
let's say people that like Bitcoin because they see it as a store of value. Those are the people that are like easiest to talk about this DeFi stuff because they already have this same outlook towards the world, kind of this. I'm gonna call it like a libertarian kind of like thought process a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, and don't really like they kind of think the government's like might be out to get them at a certain point and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
then when you describe to them something like Aave or something like Synthetix or Curve or these different protocols, like that's revolutionary to someone like that. Like you have a whole financial system being built under your nose.
Hmm.
And on the synthetic side, allowing people to access this like 10 times leverage on like a slew of different trading assets and then buy and sell like options and then do covered calls on something like Bitcoin in a
Hmm.
fully trustless manner. Like
Right. It's the
Yeah.
difference between like trying to describe crypto's use case to someone who's in crypto for the use case, or someone that's interested in crypto for the use case, besides like as opposed to trying to describe crypto as a use case to someone that is like, Nancy bought crypto, number go up, I buy Lambo, basically.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are brought into like some people who say they're into crypto aren't really into it the way that we are. Like they're the people that buy it
Hmm.
on their Coinbase account, never self custody, never do any of the next step. Like they're just in it to try to make a little bit of money and that's it. They don't actually see it for what it is. But I do think that's also the first step for people. Like,
Right. And they, a lot of those people just haven't stepped through like the wormhole that is like crypto Twitter and Discord and like gotten into these communities. They're just like, I mean, Doge and like Shiba, they had such a huge social media presence that like people that were like just trading on like Robinhood or Coinbase for the first time, or like hadn't opened up an account, could see it on like TikTok, Instagram, whatever. And then they're like, oh, I'm gonna buy that. Like everyone else is doing it. And then they don't actually get involved in the space. They're kind of just like tangentially in it. Like they're in it, yes, but they're not like part of the communities. They're not like in crypto Twitter. They're not like on crypto Discord. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they're not just
yeah,
custodying their own coins and stuff like that. I think is a
Yeah.
huge difference. Like, but I'm curious what do you think about M&A in crypto? Do you think that's gonna be a thing? Do you think it's gonna be something that we're trending towards, or it's probably not? I saw Rari and Tribe, and I think that's the only one I really know of.
wow, that My personal thoughts on mergers and acquisitions in crypto. I I I think it's a tough thing in crypto, right? Because at the end of the day, there has to be real value to like merge
hmm
with another protocol, right? Because really, for most protocols, you could just fork their code and
Yeah,
just
Mm-hmm.
there's not a
use it
huge
from there.
value or incentive, right, to like actually. So, but it seems like with the Rari tribe one, they had like kind of the yin and yang side of it, like deep liquidity on one, and then the utility of like a protocol that needed more liquidity, and so they just like merged
Yeah,
them together. But
that's the part. Like it's the
Mm-hmm.
community and the liquidity
hmm
that in my mind will be the reason to lead for any sort of merger, any sort of like acquisition in that sense.
Right.
Um
yeah,
like that's the big thing to me. Within the Synthetix ecosystem, I don't see it yet, but it's definitely something that could happen. If
yeah,
like okay, just to kind of dive into like, this a little bit as of right now, anyone could start a synthetic futures trading platform as a front end
hmm
to utilize Synthetix. Quenta is just, one of the independent front ends that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
In theory, if someone started a new one and, let's say develop new features and such, in a way, Quenta could go out to them and say, "Hey, we want to, purchase your project. We'll pay you X amount, and we want to bring on your developers as well." I think that's probably where it comes up for some projects as well, trying to
yeah,
bring on talent
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Talent M and
because
A
talent is
basically.
so scarce.
It's
Like
like team and
literally,
yeah,
community that you're acquiring, really.
yeah, that's the big thing: getting the team, getting the community, and then like, and that happens in tech a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
Literally purchasing a company just for the purpose of having their developers.
Right.
hmm Aqua-hires or whatever. I know that's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
pretty
yeah. That's
popular and
that's
stuff.
a
Yeah.
term. Acquihire is
Yeah.
what I couldn't think of.
Well, I wonder too, like, I mean, there's a few things like you're saying, like you can fork stuff, but then like the team side seems like it would be a really good fit where people could just like I could see where people would do that. Especially in like bear markets or things like that. I wonder if there would be NFT kind of M&As, like, Azuki buys out or maybe Bored Apes buy out Azuki's and it's like another branch. I mean, I guess we saw that kind of with punks.
Yeah, I mean, something like that definitely could happen. It's just for NFTs, it's a question of are you still going to keep up the brand on both sides and maybe just,
Mhm.
share the utility.
Yeah.
Um,
Realistically, you could fairly easily, right? I mean, it's really you just run it, like you switch to Twitter accounts and bada bing, bada boom, you're pretty much good. But I wonder at what cycle, because it does seem like the Web3 kind of tracks a lot of Web2 stuff or TradFi stuff, where there's
it
like,
just kind of speed
um,
runs legacy
yeah,
projects.
exactly. We're speed
Yeah.
running it. I just wonder when we hit the like 80s M&A phase and like, white
Corporate
suits
raiders
and
and
stuff. Yeah,
like
corporate raiders, Icon, and those guys start coming out of the woodworks.
I mean, it's definitely something that could happen up to a certain extent. I have a hard time probably like piecing together like NFT purchases because like the
hmm
culture and the brand is the biggest part. Like if you were to acquire them, it would just be, to bring their users into your ecosystem as well, and then to just
Yeah.
still have the brand still coexist.
Because they're not as
Um,
forkable, right? Because I mean, you're really not
yeah,
forking any. I mean, you could make punks on Arbitrum or something, or even punks on Ethereum, and just copy the art over or whatever. But like, nobody would be like, oh, I have a punk, punk six, and then also punk six over here. Like, nobody's gonna be like, yeah, now I have two. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it
yeah, like
wouldn't
that.
fork.
That doesn't really matter for most people,
Yeah.
and like it's also like the same thing in DeFi to an extent, right? Like
hmm
in theory, anyone could just fork any project. Like if you
Yeah.
wanted to, you can go fork Synthetix right now,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have the Synthetix like you don't have all the people that have used Synthetix up to this point. You don't have the community. You don't have the team. Like
Yeah. Or
that's
the
the
culture
biggest
kind of
part.
there.
The culture that's there, the years of
Mhm.
development, like
Yeah.
that's all vital parts. I mean, there have been countless people that have, forked something like Aave or something like Uniswap, and they're not Uniswap. Like they're just
hmm
not that protocol. Even if you
Yeah.
change the tokenomics and change other things, it's just not the same thing at the end of the day.
I know it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of wild how forkable things are, but like also that like the people are always talking about moats and like, oh, well, you could just like fork this. Like, yeah, you could, but it's like kind of getting people like Pepsi's pretty close to Coke. Like, why don't people just switch? You know what I mean? It's like not like it's like not that it's kind of like brand culture, but I think it's kind of interesting. I think too, what we were talking about before, where like getting people, like some people, the avenue that they get into crypto kind of determines if they're like more open to it or not, or the exposure to it. I think for some people that are like not even willing to look at it, they're really just stuck up. In my mind, a lot of people are stuck on like the high friction of getting in. Like they're kind of older, hate computers. They just don't want to learn anything new. You know, like that's a
Yeah.
big barrier.
And I think for the space as a whole, we have to make it easier for people to onboard as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So like, you know, for like exchanging assets, right? Like even connecting your wallet is difficult for some people, you know? Like figuring out how
Yeah.
that even works. I'm self-custodying my funds. What does that mean? Like I know certain wallets like Rainbow probably does a pretty good job like introing people to crypto and like, giving them some, some like good starter DeFi stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
I think as an industry, it has to be easier to onboard people. Like, and that means everyone, like not just people that are already crypto natives and are
Mm-hmm.
down to read through your docs like 5 times over.
Anybody, people read docs? Jeez.
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm the one that's writing them, so
Yeah, exactly.
I,
You should
I
throw stuff in there too, and if I push the red button, it all goes to zero, and like see if anybody mentions it at all. You know,
just
like throw those in there.
just little Easter eggs. You know, it's
Yeah,
funny. Like,
exactly.
there's like so many people that will read these things every now and again. They'll send me like, "Oh, you spelt this word wrong." I'm like, "Thank God I have you guys." You know, like I would
Decentralized
not have
spell check.
noticed that. Yeah, exactly. Hey, this is what DeFi is all about, guys. Okay, this is
Yeah, exactly. I
this
know
is what
people do that.
Satoshi and Vitalik wanted.
Yeah, these are the big ideas
Spell
of Web
checking
three.
Discord posts. Love that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious too.
It could
Like, I
be like
mean,
it could be like the most, sorry, Matthias, I didn't mean to
oh no,
cut you
no, go
off.
for it.
It could be like the most pronounced Discord like alpha ever, and someone will still be like skip the point that like this is alpha, it's like life changing, and just be like, yeah, you didn't put a period here.
Yeah, or like, why am I getting a ping? Or like,
Yeah.
it's an announcement. That's why you're getting a ping. Like, this is what do you mean? Like,
This
people are
is
funny like that.
this is a war proposal. It's like, yeah, well, I'm muting you. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm
like,
sorry.
all right, don't mute me. You're kicked. It's fine. There you go. No. Well, I think we're at an hour. We could always wrap. I mean, we could keep going. We could throw out some spicy questions at the end, and we can,
Yeah, I got a question or two for Matt too.
yeah,
Matthias, if you got some.
yeah. You go
Yeah.
first, and I'll throw out the second.
Sweet. So we like to kind of just we should probably start doing this like somewhere in the middle, because I feel like people people that aren't spending an hour and a half driving listening to us are probably gonna hate us for doing this at the end. But
Put all the good stuff at the end. It's
yeah,
fine.
exactly. So what are your two favorite modes of information? And I guess let me change that, because I think most people would say like Twitter and Discord or like Medium or something. But let's say like, who are your two favorite crypto, let's say like influencers or crypto heads like on Twitter that you follow? And what are your two favorite projects right now? And you can't say Synthetix, and you
Yeah,
can't say
yeah,
KAIN.
yeah. I was actually going to intro with a cop out would be me saying Kane.
Yeah.
But I obviously can't. Yeah. So two favorite influencers. I really like DeFi Dad. I've always liked him. Like even like years ago when I first got involved, he was this like really awesome way of like what would you even call that? Pretty much like making crypto digestible, and like that's what I then wanted to do for users.
Hmm.
But he's really awesome in that regard. He's got a great following, very wholesome guy as well. It's probably one of the reasons I liked him. Like tried to avoid like Twitter drama. Like was always
Hmm.
pretty casual. Outside of him, other person that I really find interesting. I really like what is oh my god, what was that guy's name? Ah,
You're good if you're blanking. If you remember it, you could always mention it again.
yeah, no, I've really got to know who it is. But when it comes to like interesting projects that I like, we'll
Hmm.
we'll go over to that. When it comes to interesting projects that I like, um, while I haven't used it in a while, I really like the idea behind Alchemix, right? Like
Hmm.
having like this loan that repays itself automatically over time. So let's just say you have some amount of crypto and you want to earn interest on it, but then you also need to go, do a purchase right now, and you don't want to handle like, borrowing it on Aave or something. That is like really awesome to me. Like
Hmm.
I find that as like a really good real world use case.
Hmm.
The second protocol, I is it a cop out to say something like Thales if they're in the Synthetix ecosystem?
No, I think they earned it. I think you need to give them that.
Yeah, and but and it's not just because I have social points that I have to earn back with them, but I feel like what they're doing, and especially on like their exotic markets, which
Hmm. Yeah, pretty excited about the exotic
yeah,
markets.
like the exotic markets having the ability to get into like a market. I the other day I like bought a power mutual market for what was it? I think it was like the Bulls game.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy that they can do that now, right?
So like stuff like that is really amazing to me. Obviously, it's a little bit more trustless than some of their other power mutual markets, like stuff that's
Hmm.
just built on Thales. But that I find so awesome because you get like this this like sports exposure and like stuff like that. So like Super Bowl's coming up, stuff like
I feel like we're all trying to steer away from saying the B word.
I don't know what word you're talking about, man. But hey, I love power mutual markets.
Same
That's
here.
what that's what I really
Sports
like.
pari-mutuel markets.
Yeah, no, that's my big thing. Power mutual markets, man. Oh, the guy I really like, Foo. Bitcoin
Foo.
Oh
Panda.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, he's awesome. And it's not just like to me, he's just this like, funny guy that goes on Twitter and like, kind of cuts away from like the normal, like really serious or like it's either on crypto Twitter, I feel like it's either really serious or just clowning all the time. Right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
Yeah.
someone like Foo to me is just this like, dude, he's just like I'll tweet at him every so often. I'll be like, yo, what's up, my favorite panda, and he'll just be like, I love you. Like he'll just message this probably a long time ago now, but he's just this like like again like a wholesome character who
Hmm.
you just get to interact with in a space that's like so to a lot of people is just so about like money and like what's the current APY and stuff like that. Like it's a departure from like the seriousness that sometimes
Yeah, I
people
love that you have the dichotomy of like the like layman's educator and the like just complete crypto clown.
hmm Yeah, yeah. So I would definitely recommend anyone to check out Bitcoin Panda. He's hysterical. He'll just like here, I'll just pull up a tweet of his. He'll just like message. He'll put out something randomly, just being like, "Sorry, Foo, but we won't be moving forward with your application. We hope you understand, and we would love to stay in touch." Oh, you'll stay in touch with Foo Pee. Like, dude, that's like that is such a departure from normal crypto Twitter. It's just this guy acting like a panda. Like what?
Yeah, I
So
love that like crypto Twitter is literally just like type whatever you can into a tweet, send it, don't think twice about it.
yeah, yeah, and that's hard to do when when you're running a brand Twitter and you're like praying that everything is good with it
Yeah.
because Twitter really isn't maybe Elon Musk will change this, but it really isn't too helpful when you fuck something up in your tweet as well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Can't edit your tweets, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a painful experience sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. My spicy take was, or my spicy question was, should founders have a Twitter?
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely, because the ability for a founder to kind of use like their bully pulpit, kind of like a president would use,
Hmm.
to like, force people to kind of look at certain things that they may deem as like important, I think is very helpful. Now, at some points, the community may just disagree with the founder, and that's
Yeah.
fine. That's totally fine. Like that's what DeFi really is about. Probably like some examples with someone like KAIN. There have been times where, and maybe this isn't fully on Twitter, but there have been times where KAIN has disagreed with this Synthetic Spartan Council, and they were just like, and KAIN's a member of the council as well. He's elected.
Hmm.
KAIN will put a proposal up. The council will say no, like you're not going to get the votes on that, and then they'll decide something else. But going into like why founders should have a Twitter account, like I I consider it really important for the health of the project, at least at first. There's a certain point where the founder doesn't have to be so instrumental, but like
Yeah.
bootstrapping, you do kind of need like these public faces of the project that aren't their Twitter account, that isn't like the Synthetix Twitter, right?
You
Hmm.
need like leadership, kind of like.
Yeah, yeah, to a certain extent, and like KAIN serves as like a really helpful check on certain things that I'll do on Twitter as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Going back to like the Thales conversation, he'll just like rip you a new one every so often, just for fun.
Yeah, so you
Um,
always have that on the back of your head when you're writing out a tweet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Double check yourself.
But even at like other projects, like like Uniswap, you have like someone like Hayden. Like
Yep.
it's what people look to. Or Ovid, you
Hmm.
have like Stanny. Like you have free Stanny. When he got banned from Twitter. Um, but there's like people like that are really good to have there as these like really helpful like ways to get information into the hands of people that aren't coming from like the official account, right?
Yeah.
Because KAIN every now and again will tweet something, like he'll just like think up an idea, tweet it, and it's not something that like the core contributors were even thinking about yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like NFTs as collateral on Synthetix V3, he just threw that one out there.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a big discussion about NFTs as collateral earlier today.
So yeah, I do think founders should have Twitters. Um, I think it's really important for like these growing projects, and then
Mm-hmm.
alongside that, it's really up to the project to kind of put these checks on the founder to make sure that they don't just get to run everything, in the shadows. But
Yeah,
that's
for
up to these
sure.
individual projects and how decentralized they are. Because hey,
Yeah.
a lot of projects don't take decentralization as seriously as they say they do.
Mm-hmm.
Right, for sure. I mean, they're probably going for like progressive decentralization, or they just are saying that they're decentralized and just like not really ever planning on it or anything like that. So,
Yeah, exactly. Maybe,
yeah.
maybe I'm more of a cynic.
Yeah, I definitely think like I'm hopeful that it will be decentralized or things will keep moving in that direction, but I'm also like, man, maybe it will and maybe it won't, so we'll
Yeah,
see.
and like that's up to these individual, protocols and like what they decide to do. Like just
Hmm.
to call out, like someone like Quenta as an example has gone like the decentralized first approach, like
Yeah.
decentralizing as much as possible and working it out from there, having DAOs for like marketing DAO and having like the protocol help with that side of things and like hiring like community leads to help run that. I think they also have like a development DAO to fix things like on the front end and some back end stuff every now and again. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I mean, it really depends on how decentralized a protocol really wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, anyways, man, like we're at an hour and 10 now. I'm sure we could talk to you for 6 hours. We we constantly we keep bringing people onto the podcast, and like you can't really get a feel for someone's. I mean, you can kind of get a feel for their vibe based off of like Discord and Twitter and whatnot, but you can't really get a feel for the vibe like verbally or like over a podcast. And I feel like we just keep getting people on the podcast that we vibe really well with, and like definitely including you in that pool of people. And like we had a great time talking to you. You're super well informed, like you're young and you're super educated. Like I can already tell that you're gonna do big things for Synthetix. You're gonna do big things in the space, and like we're both hyped to have you on and hyped to have you talk about Synthetix. And I feel like this was a great conversation. So thanks for joining us, man. And we hope to have you on the podcast again sometime.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was really awesome chatting with you guys. You had some really great questions. For
Hopefully
for
not
some of
too spicy.
no. For some of these podcasts, you think that they're just gonna have like I'm not even gonna say like shitty questions, but just kind of like questions. Like these.
Boilerplate.
Yeah, like and that's what I would have hated if you guys had me on here and just kind of like went through like some boilerplate like garbage. You know?
Yeah.
No, and we try to inject the like you can probably tell like we're both pretty laid back. Like we enjoy the space a lot, and we like injecting a little bit of comedy and just like casual conversation to the podcast. I feel like it makes it more relatable for people, but also like that's just the way that we talk. And like I think you definitely added a lot of value to that. So it was great. It was great having you on, man. I feel like we all vibe well together. So again,
Yeah, I
like
appreciate you coming on.
yeah, thanks, man. Like we both really appreciate it. I think for episode 11, it's pretty great that we have Synthetix on. And yeah, it was great, man.
Yeah, guys,
Yeah, have a
it
good
was
one.
awesome being here. Thank you, and you guys enjoy the rest of your week. And I hope all the listeners had a fun time as well.
Yeah, us too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Have a good one,
Have a good
guys.
one.
Bye.
Mhm.